Welcome to Onesies, a podcast of one season wonders and blunders. My name's Andrew.
My name is Emily.
We're back discussing World of Giants.
World of Giants, a chemical story.
Well, not a chemical story.
No.
That's a little fancy.
Chemical story. Episode 6. Halfway there.
Now-ish. Yes. Wait, I'm sorry. That was Gavin MacLeod.
Which one?
The guy,
the baddie?
No, not the main baddie. The baddie who gets the sellout, the corrupt guy. That was Gavin MacLeod.
Oh, he was so young.
He was very young and very bald.
Very bald.
I assumed that Gavin MacLeod might have had hair when he was younger. We'll get to it, folks. Okay, so we are now on episode 6. We are into the William Allen produced period, which I actually wanted to look something up. Did he produce Incredible Shrinking Man? I don't think he did.
Well, I can't wait to talk about all the women in this episode.
You ladies using your wiles. Also, Mel's apology apparently was retconned out.
Well, you got to treat women badly if you want them around.
Sucks even worse than he did last episode. Okay, so yes, episode 6. William Allen has just taken over producing. This episode is directed by Eugene Loret, director of such wonderful films as such kaiju masterpieces, since everything is now kaiju retroactively. He directed the kaiju masterpiece Gorgo, Behemoth the Sea Monster, Colossus of New York, and Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
Nice.
All of those kaiju movies. What did he do? He actually worked on really good movies too in art direction.
Yeah, you just mentioned them. Hello.
Okay, anyway. And his last credited thing was on a Clint Eastwood movie, Bronco Billy. He was the art director. Credited is Gene Laurie because it was 1980 and nobody liked that French shit anymore in the US. It was the rise of Reaganomics prequel or whatever. Great, it's all burning. Anyway, moving on to the past, where the gang has a mission to go and figure out who's stealing some yttrium. Yttrium is a real element. Emily and I have learned about this now. It is the chemical symbol Y with atomic number 39, which plays into the periodic table that was on the wall in one of the shots. So
right, now I have to cut out you singing the periodic table of elements song. Thank you.
You told me to rap it, and you told me to use that accent. You begged me to use that accent. It was the one time your husband's been on the podcast when we did that in unison together, and then you're going to cut it?
I know.
Wow.
I know. Okay. I'm a monster.
A monster. So
you rate me enough.
Okay, so what happens? She's cutting up his food.
She's cutting his food. And he's bitching about it. Mel Hunter
is bitching about Brownie, is how they refer to except when he's like really like, and I abuse her because I love her. Her name's Dorothy, and I have her panties, and that's what my bed is made out of. And Bill Winters got them for me, and he actually was like, wow, I really fucking hate myself for doing this. And I was like, fuck you, Bill, do it, you suck, you beta. And I just basically described the new normal on this show, actually.
Yeah.
Yes. So
belligerent. He's not just an asshole. He's belligerent.
He's belligerent. He's so abusive to Bill in the opening of the episode. Bill's just like, I don't even fucking care, girl. Yeah. Like, this is our fucking lot. This is the show. They couldn't let us go. Instead, they kept us.
So she's preparing his food. Mel is bitching about it, about how it tastes gross, about how it's awful. And she's like, listen, I'm just doing what the doctors tell me to do. They need you to be, have nutritious food so they can test you doing whatever. And I'm just doing what they're telling me. And so don't bitch to me, bitch to the doctors. And she goes over to get Bill to be like, hey, make him stop being an asshole. And what does Bill do? Hands her like a letter opener or something as if she's gonna impale him with it.
Yep.
Which that's a show I'd watch.
Yep. I
Barbecue
mean,
that boy up and serve him to the opossum.
that'd be fucking awesome. They just all eat him in little pieces. Well, next episode's called The Feathered Foe or something. So maybe it'll be him trapped and birds trying to eat him, which would be cool. But yes, so we are getting a much more like we see a lot more of the house this episode.
Yeah.
He's like laying.
Our question is answered about where they are. They are still in the apartment. They've just moved a desk in for Brownie and built a house for Mel. So that question's answered. There's another composite shot.
We get more composite shots. We get well, sadly they could figure out composite shots, but they couldn't actually figure out glowing shots, which we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
But then also they like slept late and missed a phone call or something. So Mel's like bitching at Bill about that. He's like, we fucking suck, Bill, because we missed a phone call. And Bill's just like, chill the hell out, Mel. He's like, I'd kill you for a fucking hamburger right now. Because he's charming. But then they get the call and they get the mission, and they're gonna go and they're gonna catch these yttrium thieves. We go
So yttrium in this instance, and I don't know if this is real, is used to help find or purify the nuclear plutonium. Yes. And it's being sold or stolen, and there's potential interest from obvious other parties in purchasing plutonium to make nuclear weapons, etc. Sorry. Yeah. So they get
talk the reality of the situation here. Okay. So they go to the office, right? Because we see the commissioner.
Yeah.
And that guy's been on the show before, but I can't tell if it's the same actor.
I have no idea.
I think it actually might be a different guy. We could figure this out by opening multiple tabs on IMDb, but I think we should not.
Yeah.
And we should just let this, we should just experience the show. But we get this great composite shot of Mel coming out of the briefcase and looking up at everybody. And it's just like the table stakesiest of all fucking shots that we've been waiting for basically since the pilot.
Yeah.
And clearly when Alan came in, they were just like, well, where are all your fucking stock composite shots? They're like, why would we have stock composite shots? And they're just like, are you fucking stupid? Did you see my movie? Did you see Shrinking Man? I should have made that. But then we get Bill investigating, right? So he's going to go to the factory. He pretends to be from the company, wondering about their bad bookkeeping.
Yes.
Now, we'll just wait because we'll get there in a second. But this is where we meet Arthur, who is played by Gavin MacLeod of The Love Boat and of Mary Tyler Moore. We talked about him being on this episode last week. I seriously could not identify him. I was just like, wow, it's a really bald guy.
It like violently bald. Like it looks
just
like it hurts.
It looks like his hair. It's like the Wolverine claw. Okay, so there's this superhero comic book called X-Men. There's this guy called Wolverine in it. They've made movies out of them, Emily, and he has these claws that come out. And the big bit is it hurts every time, and that's how bad.
Are you mansplaining the X-Men to me?
I mean, I'm just saying. Okay. Do you know what they are?
Yeah, I mean vaguely. I know who Wolverine is.
Okay. Do you know the "it hurts every time" reference?
No, I guess I didn't.
See, I guess.
Yeah, but you didn't have to be all jerky about it, white guy.
You fucking cut my rap, okay? You cut our rap. You cut me and your husband's rap. We fucking danced, Emily. We danced for you.
It's his call. It's his call. In this instance, he did not want to be identified on camera.
You heard it here, folks. It was going to be a video podcast, and that's been canceled.
So it hurts. It looks like it hurts. He's violently bald.
Yes,
recognizable as Gavin MacLeod.
Yes. But then he's like sputtering, and he's like,
yeah, he's not very good at coming up with excuses. And also, Bill is being tough. I mean, Bill is like, listen, it's too many mistakes too often. And he's like, well, we had new people in. And he's like, you don't let new people handle Itrium. Well, nobody's perfect. It's like, yeah, dude, I get it, but you gotta account for all of this shit. And then he is like a completely innocent person, like, just a second, I'll be right back. And he leaves the room, goes right outside to his lovely assistant's desk, and is like, he knows we're gonna be in trouble. Oh my God. Blah 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 blah. And she's like, okay, honey, chill out. Go back in there. It'll all be fine. And he's like, no, we need to leave now. We need a flight to Mexico. Let's go. And she's like, okay, you go back in. So he goes back in and it gets grilled by Bill some more. In the meantime, she calls somebody on the phone, a super secret call, says, I've got this package for you. You need to come pick it up or something to not, again, sound completely suspicious. And then another dude comes in. A lot of guest stars on this, not guest stars, but a lot of other speaking roles.
Yeah, it's almost like a regular TV show.
Yeah.
Also, we can talk about the lack of narration during action sequences.
I didn't even I completely spaced that
that's nice because I spent the entire action sequence with the narration that I imagined would be there playing in my head, just about him whining about unscrewing something.
I was just in the shotgun, the firing scene, the gunfight was like, why can these guys not hit anybody? Like, these are the worst shots. This guy's supposedly a spy. This guy supposedly works for the Bureau, and neither one of them can hit the other one 6 feet away.
We were only like 8 minutes into the episode, obviously.
Yeah, but they're 6 feet away from each other. And also, there's not like glass breaking and fires breaking out because chemicals are being shot at. Like, whatever. Not very realistic.
Which we will have to discuss towards the end as we discuss the real world of World of Giants, which gets it toned down a little bit again, though. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we'd already met the secretary because I think she brought Bill in to meet Dude. And we're getting all these insert shots of Mel looking out his little window in the briefcase and listening. We never get an idea of what he's actually seeing, but he has perfect view and perfect hearing of every sequence. It's amazing. It's very lucky.
Yeah.
So, Arthur goes back in to talk to Bill, and Bill's just basically like, oh, come on, dude. What's the answer? And Arthur's like, oh, I still don't know. But very quickly, the mystery man comes over. This is Lars Kroner. He is the bad guy who is actually... So now the secretary has seduced Arthur to follow her bidding, but she's really Lars Kroner's dame, which is interesting because Bill's would be quite the improvement over either of these fellows. But yes, also Lars Kroner. That's a sort of Swedish Norwegian-y name, but it is also Germany, so East German. So, Iron Curtain starting in Berlin. Okay.
And although he does not have an accent at all.
Not at all. Yeah. We also need to remember the Iron Curtain. Okay. So there's a gunfight here, and
there's a gunfight between Bill and Lars, and where they don't hit each other.
They don't hit each other.
Or anything in the room.
Bill's not knocked out. Why does Bill leave?
I think the guy runs away and Bill chases out. I don't remember.
But there's some whole bit where Arthur puts all the leftover yttrium in the briefcase. Mel gets back in the briefcase. Oh, that's what it is. The secretary brings Bill in to talk to him. She's like, there's something I really need to tell you. And he's like, what? And she's like, Arthur's a great guy. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? In the meantime.
she makes an announcement over the thing, like, Bill
Yes.
Winters, please report to reception. And then she's like, he's a really good guy. He wouldn't do anything like this. And Bill's like, what? Why am I talking to you instead of you letting me do my job?
Now, Secretary Alice has already established that she knows Bill is from the Bureau because the central office would never be smart enough to notice the missing yttrium.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're like, ooh, the Bureau. Okay. The man from Bureau. So after Arthur fills up all the yttrium, Lars shoots him by Arthur. Mel, being a fucking just such a smart little man, literally, gets in the briefcase.
With all the yttrium.
With all the yttrium. A bunch of glass bottles, radioactive substance.
Does not even strap himself in.
Nope, he just lays on it like he's laying on a fucking pillow. So we actually do get a shot of him, like, shaken from being walked around in the briefcase early in the episode, too. So the logic now on whether or not riding around in the briefcase is hellish or nap worthy is we're going either way.
Yeah.
Okay. So he starts dumping out the yttrium, which we see because he's using the giant jugs that are supposed to be the little bottles that nobody would ever use, but they had to find something that looks the same size. So he's pouring shit out. They go to their hideout. They have a hideout.
They have a hideout. It's like, it seems like it's like on the docks, or I think they say it's like behind the factory. It's in some industrial sort of place where nobody really goes, but it's a full chemical lab also.
And there's this whole bit where we'll find out what actually happened is they drove there, dumped the car, got into a different car, took a cab the rest of the way.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of that from Mel's journey.
So, I don't remember that either, but it comes into play later.
Yes.
We see them get dropped off by a cab.
Okay.
But I don't remember what car they got into. I wasn't paying close enough attention. I didn't think that was going to be important.
But it was.
Okay. But it was.
Or not. I mean, it wasn't. It wasn't actually important. So.
I mean, it is. And I guess they could have just called the cab company and been like, who did you drop off? And where did you drop them off? That type of thing. And who paid for it?
In cash in 1959.
Yeah.
In silver dollars. So what happened? So he keeps dumping the stuff. Bill...
He keeps dumping the stuff. But while they're in their lab, their little hideaway, they decide they digging through the thing, and they notice that like half of the jars are empty. So in the span of time it took them to get there, Mel has successfully dumped out half of the jars, or something like that. And the baddie, ordering her around, by the way, he's just standing there looking at this briefcase, and he's like, you girl, go over and do this. Go lock the door. Go do that. Blah, blah, blah. Now come and put this briefcase in the refrigerator. And it's like,
I didn't realize you shamed trad wives on the podcast, Emily.
I'm sorry. No kink shaming.
She's just a Mormon trad wife. So yes, he does. And she's just like, oh, Lars, I'll do anything for you. It's gross. When did they ever start making the evil spy guys handsome? I mean, eventually, right? Like,
I don't know.
Okay. Well, we don't watch enough of
I don't watch enough spy stuff.
But anyway, so then they put the briefcase with Mel back in it. So Mel's like left the briefcase. He goes back in the briefcase. He's just, anytime the briefcase needs to go someplace, he comes back to it, but he's always gone when they look in the briefcase. They find the chair. They're like, what's this stupid fucking thing? And they throw it around. It was pretty funny.
Oh, yeah. That looks like a pilot seat, which is a callback to the last episode. The casino episode, where he describes being a toy salesman and how that's a pilot seat for an airplane.
And so they put the briefcase with Mel in it now in the fridge. There's a
Yeah.
little fridge. Put it in the fridge. Okay. Bill and Brownie, as I assume she wants to be called, are back at the lab, the chemical company lab.
Yeah.
They can't figure out where they're standing around, peeking under every like thing while there's a security guard behind them, and they're going, Mel, 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 where are you? Where are you, Mel? And I'm like, what does this guy think is happening?
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. I was like, oh, they're letting this guy in on this little secret. Nope. It's very weird.
So then they turn out the lights to leave. They see the yttrium glowing from the powder that Mal has dumped out. It is an astoundingly bad glowing effect for
Mhm.
this show at this point in its production, from what we've seen from the other composites. But it is just because you can composite a miniature, you can, however you do that, does not mean you can do this.
But this is one of my favorite scenes
Okay.
because Bill finds his shoe.
Yes, he does.
He holds up this little toy shoe.
Little toy shoe.
Oh, we're getting so much closer to him like picking up Mel
Yes,
and
we
holding him
are.
in his hand
In his
as a little
hand.
doll. I can't wait. But the little
Uh,
shoe that does not look like it would actually
I
function.
fit anybody. It looks like a fucking
It, it looks like it's made out of like made out of wood.
yep. It looks like it's painted wood. It's,
Yeah.
I think early on, maybe for the first episode, we discussed where Barbie is in the timeline. Like Barbie just had dropped.
Yeah.
So maybe they didn't have a bunch of little Ken shoes around, which makes it even more absurd because he ought to be dressed like he's dressed in pre Barbie clothes, like big, uncomfortable doll clothes. It should be fucking hilarious, but it's not. Um, we also are going to get some great scale discrepancies of like, what do you
Mm-hmm.
think 6 inches is? This movie, everybody on this movie is some dude who has been telling people what 6 inches is their whole lives. It's
Those little bottles are not much bigger than this AirPod case that I'm holding up. And
yeah.
yet when Mel is in the briefcase with him, he is the same size. And this is what, 2 inches? Something like that?
I'm not going to talk. If your husband tells you that's 2 inches, that's what that is. Sing. Um,
Oh boy.
you're gonna have to make some editing decisions this episode anyway.
Well, now I'm not going to cut out all the racist slurs you were using. So,
well,
just having fun, folks. Andrew's not racist. I mean, he probably is, but he's working really hard not to be as a white man.
uh, getting pretty serious for me trying to come up with the banter here. Oh my god. I was thinking maybe I could mansplain a Deadpool meme that's going around right now and needs to be well actually, but I think I'll skip it. Instead, we will talk about how Mel is now trapped in. Oh, we get this great shot of the refrigerator door closing on
Mm-hmm.
on the refrigerator with Mel inside, and it's pitch black and commercial break, right?
Yeah.
Sadly, we are not going to get Mel stumbling through in the dark the rest of the episode. We are going to get some beautifully lit stuff. We're going to get fucking Carol Reed's Chemicals World of Giants for just like every once in a while, you're just like, this is really well lit for what's happening on screen right now. But what we
Yeah.
get is Mel is freezing. He would probably just be dead. I mean, realistically speaking.
So I struggled with this sequence because you and I know that as small children, we were taught not to get into a refrigerator, on a disused refrigerator, because you can suffocate, right? This was a thing that I don't know if it was a urban legend or if it had actually happened, but I remember hearing this as a kid. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, he's going to suffocate. But in reality, the whole time, he's just worrying about being too cold.
Yeah. He's worried about being too cold. I mean, size wise, he wasn't in there long enough to suffocate. I mean, with his little,
Yeah.
three
But at the
centimeter
same
lungs.
time, he did not know when he was going to be rescued.
No, and also you have to remember this is 1959. This is before. Okay, so I don't remember what it was called, but it was that law that Reagan either got rid of or couldn't stop, where they were like, you can't just fucking lie to kids on TV about how the world works. You actually have to not endanger the intelligence of the voting bloc. And we got rid of that, obviously. But this is very much not presented with any safety in mind. Like,
Yeah.
yes, kids, get in a fucking refrigerator. And then while you're at it, play with some electrical wires while you're at it with your hands.
Yeah.
So it's basically we're getting like something that a Mission Impossible movie would consider irresponsible, like messaging about consumer products in a show for kids of 1959. Like it's a very interesting cross section of things. But he is going to turn down the dial, and then we see this bottle of milk, and I didn't think it was going to a carton of milk. It comes in because that's where we get the artsy fucking shot of him. So we get full lighting here. It's not like there's no light in the refrigerator. It's not. It's there's beautiful lighting. All of a sudden, Greg Toland is lighting the interior of this refrigerator. It's fucking hilarious. We get like these great shadows. I'm just like, this is. It's so weird, right? Like, what if this were like some great weird fucking noir shrinking man story?
It does look like a noir. I was thinking it looks like a Melville noir movie. Like,
yeah,
so good.
But so basically he's going to be in the refrigerator. He's got to turn down the dial. He can't turn the dial by hand because he's weak and he doesn't have that hummingbird power that they mentioned in the pilot. That never paid off. So he, is going to be freezing. He's going to be giving up. He's eventually going to find a bottle opener that there's no reason for it to be in there. This is the part where I was like, wait, did Alant actually produce Shrinking Man? I didn't think he did, but I was like, that's like the best giant miniature they've had on the show. It's very simple, but it's like the best one.
Yeah.
Who knew they could handle that much?
It looked real.
I know. Real. It was pretty amazing. So he's going to be using that to jimmy the dial off and then pull it down, unscrew the electrical thing, pull it off by hand, and thereby shut off the power to the fridge, which would then stop freezing him. Outside of the fridge, Bill and Brownie have tracked this down. There's been this whole thing where they got to the car that they drove away in, there's yttrium at the cab stand where they got a cab, and then they find the cabbie because his back seat was glowing white instead of, and not under black light.
Yeah.
And so then they track them down. There's this weird, house on the edge of the cemetery that's a secret lab or whatever, because they get there and they're like, ask the cops if they'd canvass, and the cops are like, sure. And they're like, well, you clearly fucking didn't because you didn't find him, right? So, or maybe the cops were in the neighborhood that the cab stand is, whatever. They finally get to the place. The cops are rolling up. We hear the sirens. I think they're actually, Alice, the bad secretary, is actually like, Lars, it's the Bureau. And I'm just kind of like, it's Police Squad led by Frank Drebin. God, do you remember when we watched really good shows? We did that twice that I can
like twice. Yeah.
But they were really good. It was like, just saying, folks, if you'd like to go listen to our seasons on Police Squad or Fishing with John, it might be a little bit different of an experience.
Yeah, a little bit better.
But this is a lot better than when we did quite a few things. So, including the first 5 episodes of the show, or whatever, 4 episodes of the show. So there's a shootout. I don't even remember how that resolved.
I don't either.
Do they run off? Yes, they do. At some point, Mel has heard their flight plans. They're going to fly out at 9:00.
Right. That's one
Um,
of the first things
that
that
yeah,
Maddie orders her to do.
yeah, it's
Get them a
make the
flight.
reservations.
Get a flight
Um,
to El Paso, the one that leaves at 9 o'clock.
and so she calls up and she's like, I'm checking on your flights to El Paso, the one that leaves at 9 o'clock. It's just like, interesting script choices. Really got to fill out.
Well, they have to
23
say
minutes.
it a number of times so Mel can remember it in his tiny brain.
That is true. That is actually very true. And by Mel, you mean actor Marshall Thompson. So then they run out. Bill gets in. They're like, shit, there's the briefcase. Brownie finds the chair. Oh no, where's Mel? And then he hears them and he makes the refrigerator spark or turn on or
He
something.
again, like, he makes the electricity go off by shorting the electricity in the refrigerator.
Right.
So you know how you have a car battery and you're trying to jumpstart your car, you're not supposed to, like, there's a positive and a negative and you're not supposed to cross them.
Okay.
He crosses the wires and it makes everything short out.
And then they see the refrigerator and
And
somehow
just
they know. Maybe it
somehow
was
they know.
glowing with yttrium, but the special effects were so bad.
Maybe because he has been dumping it in there too.
Wait, what about was this the episode with pushing the bottle off?
He did that during the
Initial fight?
initial gunfight, I think.
Oh, okay. We got this great quote unquote shot of Mel on a shelf pushing a bottle off to distract Lars so he didn't shoot Bill or something.
Yeah.
And the composite, it's beyond them. It's like a 50-50 composite, like it's translucent. So they were trying to compensate for that, but it's just kind of funny because they are actually now trying to more imply Mel, that we would get a shot of teeny Mel yelling at the big villain of an episode. We're getting closer to Mel's participation in the action scenes, as we now have actual actions in the gun fights that we didn't have before. But yes, so then Mel's cold and he's like, the El Paso flight, 9 p.m. And then we cut to
the house, back to the apartment.
House. Okay.
So we don't get to see the baddies get.
Of course not, because it's World of Giants. Like, we can just imagine it was just like The Killing. What?
The American one?
Yeah, the Kubrick.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the TV show. Sorry.
Yeah. When Sterling Hayden's there and it's just like, what's the point?
Yeah, it's been a while.
So then we get what's her face making a drink for him. Now she's making this drink in a beaker, like a half beaker. Like, this thing is not a miniature of any kind. This thing looks,
it's smaller than a beaker though. It's small,
but it's like a half beaker. It's still like, it's twice to 3 times as tall as a thimble. Like, this thing is pretty large looking in her hand because she's manipulating it like with her hand.
Yeah, and she's using a droppers
but like, she's not like dropping, she's like spraying from the dropper because this thing's pretty big. And I'm just like, is she giving him like how big is this going to be when he gets it? Spoiler alert, everybody, it's like 16 ounces when he gets it. It's the worst fucking scale discrepancy they've had this episode, and we've blocked many of them. But at one point in this episode, Mel is no bigger than an inch tall. Like, Mel is tiny at some point this episode. It's fucking hilarious. But she makes him the drink, and does he apologize to her? Or he says something like,
well, he takes the drink and he's like, oh, this isn't that bad, actually, because he had been complaining in the first scene about how terrible the food is. And he's like, what's in it? And she starts describing the chemicals that are in it. And he's like, okay, never mind. I don't want to know. Like, whatever. I don't want to know.
That was going someplace. And then, but it's not. Instead, where it's and Bill's singing in the shower.
I thought that was a little wild for 1959, that we can hear Bill. He's in the shower and singing, and there's this woman in the room. So, and she's just like, okay, cool. Look, Mel, I want to fucking leave,
this is a part-time job, mornings only, and I've been here for 48 hours. My
Yeah.
landlady thinks is going to bust me on public decency things because it's 1959
Yeah.
and I don't have a husband and my dad
She's
has my
she's
checking
gonna
account.
think something is
Something's up.
amiss.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Mel's like, "Oh yeah, okay. Well, see you later. Thanks for everything." And she's just like, "Oh, okay, cool, thanks." And because Mel's trying, we don't get the full apology scene again.
No.
Instead, now remember, folks, the full apology scene last episode was, "Hi, Brownie. You were the nurse who made me want to live again after I shrank down after my adventures behind the Iron Curtain. And I'm allowed to abuse you when you're a nurse, but not when you're a secretary. That's how this works." We're instead going to get Mel coming into his little house with his little fucking 16-ounce smoothie, um, as opposed to what should have literally been like he was holding onto a fucking bottle, like a double-sized one of those water jugs that you
Yeah.
refillable office water jug. And so he looks dead into the camera. He's like, "Well, folks, maybe you don't know my story."
Yeah.
He then
So
tells us
weird.
his origin. He then says, "And what did I do when I woke up? I was looking into the eyes of one Dorothy Brown, and she made this little soldier want to live again. So when I give her shit, it's because she understands. I like that girl, so I'm going to pull on her pigtails. Here, as I am a real person living in the world of giants." And so totally we get the origin recap, but then we also get, okay, I'm sorry, the test audience got back to us about me not verbally abusing the lady, and they were like, "We're not watching the show if he doesn't verbally abuse the lady." And so we had to fix that. And then he sings with
Along with
Bill, along
Bill.
with Bill, and it is combination what could be good and combination reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
um so yes, not quite as I think I enjoyed last episode more in a
Yeah.
lot of ways, just because well, we didn't even talk about, I don't know if we talked about this pre-record or if I mentioned it when we started recording. We don't have Mel narrating his action sequences anymore.
No. Yeah.
So when he's in the ice box, right, when he's trying to do it, I'm just like, is he going to be like, "If I were your size, I would just turn this dial and hear that reassuring click as it goes between coolness settings. But I'm not your size. I'm Mel Hunter, real life Bureau
6 inch tall
espionage agent,
man.
6 inch
Yeah.
tall man, the only one we know about in the United States of America. Totally real, kids." And then we'd get a recap of what he'd done for the day, everything he did. Instead, we get nothing. And it was just like somebody clearly watched the show and was like, "Why the fuck is he talking all the time? This is a
Yeah.
terrible idea." We do get the incredibly inappropriate score again, though, which I thought was lovely. Once again, we get like the lovely parts of Swan Lake over, we're all poisoned with yttrium, and it's going to start coming, our fucking bungholes are going to start disintegrating in 30 seconds if we don't find the cure. So there you go.
Also, we missed talking about a fun special effect at the beginning between Mel and Brownie. I don't remember what it is though. He has something in his hand and he
He
tosses
throws
it
it
to
to
her.
her. Yes.
That was fun.
And she opens her hand and the little thing's in her hand. Yes.
That was fun.
Yeah.
And he says, or she says, "Oh, nice throw." And he's like, "Nice catch." It was so cute.
Yeah.
More of
Because
that, please.
this show doesn't have to suck.
More of that,
Like,
please. It would be so cute to just remember, like, well, my husband might remember when like film was in its infancy and people were like playing around and there was like all of these French and German directors just fucking around making movies. And Georges Méliès is one of my favorites. And he's just got all of these weird special effects and he cuts and like, why can't they do that with TV in this? It would be so cute.
um,
Andrew, answer for this. I demand a response.
The commercialization of cinema and the
Like, how can something in 1959 look so categorically bad compared to something from 1911? Ask your friend Howie. I think you should ask Howie.
I would, but it's, I mean, we sort of, the early 30s had a lot more sort of, what would you even say, like objective visual exposition devices, right? And we
Yeah,
got rid of that very quickly. I feel like by the time, it was because people weren't super comfortable with miniatures. And I don't know if it was because clearly people were okay with it to some degree because war movies used miniatures. And you can assume to some degree war movies are your, well, probably westerns would be your
yeah,
lowest common denominator. But war movies would be right above that, if not parallel. I mean, it would eventually be parallel as far as Hollywood goes. But we sort of fell out of the special effects game, except for in like even bigger war movies. Like, and even then, they never really leaned into it as much as they could. Like, I don't, there's no example of some World War II movie from the 40s where somebody does a full on miniature, like, you know, let's acknowledge that this is not real, but it's a really fucking cool way of doing this
yeah,
type thing. And so you just fell out of the practice of special effects. This is, but I mean, just that idea of your throat, I mean, throwing between a frame even is beyond this show often. And it's
yeah,
just sort of a lack of, and we saw that in the first 4 episodes, the lack of like creativity, but like even like passing competence creativity for
yeah.
a shrinking man thing. That's why these are so much different all of a sudden is, you know, we sort of almost got there with the casino one, but they even fucked that up, right?
Hmm.
Or that was last episode. So
Yeah, that was the last one.
we've actually sort of moved away from that already too, in that we're not getting the weird sound effects. We did a full silent Mel in the fridge thing.
There wasn't like a whoosh sound of the
I mean,
refrigerator
there was
being
a
on.
dull hum of it, but
Okay.
it was not, you know, like it
Yeah.
was last episode. So we'll see if they actually ever figure this out. I mean, maybe they will, maybe they won't. I would assume that if they do, it's not going to be very good. I mean,
Yeah.
formulaic action stuff works because people enjoy the formula. And if you never quite find that formula, you're shit out of luck and you don't get renewed and you end up on our show. But yeah, so I think, and it's also 59, and we were sort of at the end of the 50s sci-fi by now, and that didn't really, we lost that in the 60s, right? Like there's not a lot before 68. I don't feel like there's a lot of sci-fi in the 60s, in the early
Um,
60s, not in the US.
yeah. And I guess like Ray Harryhausen was doing more animation than as a special effect
Yeah.
than miniatures.
And he was, well, yeah. And what, Jason the Argonauts was 63. And I think that sort of fantasy thing, we sort of did the myths and fantasy stuff because it
Yeah.
didn't get into
And like they no, I guess they were doing epics also.
yeah.
Like in early times before the 60s, they were doing epics.
Yeah. So I mean, really the first time that it wasn't until, I mean, 2001 is an outlier, but it wouldn't be until the 70s that you really had Hollywood starting to give significant budgets to sort of sci-fi again.
Yeah.
And have we done a shrinking man in the CGI everywhere era yet? I don't know. Um, but also, we've never done a show. They've never done a show. They should do a show. That'd be fun. Like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. But I think they're trying to reboot it as a movie.
I thought they did do a show, a Honey I Shrunk the Kids show.
Yeah, but that was in the 90s. So it wouldn't have been great special effects. It would have been
Okay.
It would have been TV. Thinking now. I'm thinking all the
Gotcha.
green screening you just do now because everything's on a green screen anyway. So who cares? But yeah, so it's very interesting to see them actually trying things, and if they keep it up at this rate, we'll get one full episode's worth of good miniature visual gags if we cut out the rest of the episode. So
I want them to bring back an animal.
well, next episode is entitled.
Oh yes, the next episode. Let me get to the right screen here. Oh my god, I have too many things open. Yeah, it's like feathered foe or something.
Farfig Nugan. Oh my goodness. Here's the description. In order
Do
to
it.
stop a spy from using carrier pigeons to send microfilm to a foreign agent, Bill sends Mel into the Dovecote. The Dovecote is the birdhouse. Guest starring Nestor Paeva,
I have no idea who that is.
Creature from the Black Lagoon, and many other
Oh,
similar. Written or directed again by Nathan Jurin. So we are back. I mean, I don't know if Nathan Jurin's. I mean, he's better than Eugene Laurie. Remember, I mean, Nathan Jurin, I think, did the one last episode.
yeah, I think
Anyway.
you're right.
And then it was Byron Haskin who did it before Alan showed up. Fascinating background, potential backgrounds to this show. Fascinating.
Well, I can't wait. I might watch it as soon as I shut this off.
Cool. And maybe Bill or Mel will get his head eaten off and
His eyeballs pecked out by doves.
completely wrong scale for it too.
Or seagulls will swoop in and like
Rides
tear him
one
apart.
around.
Yeah,
Well,
I want him to tear it apart.
they toss him up in the air and just
Yeah.
pull off a limb. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool.
This is
All right.
fun. I like talking about tearing men apart. Andrew, thank you for joining me today. And folks, thank you for listening. Andrew, I'll see you in television land.
You in television land, Emily.